Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
Terrence Malick's Badlands has always been one of my favourite films. Martin Sheen's chilling performance as Cat Carruthers is unforgettable, but here's something I only just discovered. There are actually two Estevez brothers in that 1973 masterpiece. Emilio Estevez, just 10 years old, appears uncredited as Boy Under Lampposts, and sitting right next to him is his younger brother Charlie Sheen, then only 7 years old. Years before they'd become household names, before one became a Brat Pack icon and the other a sitcom superstar, they were already there together. Two kids watching their father create one of the great performances of the decade. It's a perfect metaphor for their entire story, side by side from the very beginning, both in their father's shadow, both heading into the same industry, but destined to take very different paths. Today we're diving deep into the career of Emilio Estevez, covering his best movies, his relationship with his brother and father, and where he is today. Let's fade to black. Born on May 12, 1962 in the Bronx, New York, Emilio Estevez was literally born into the business. His father, Ramon Antonio Gerardo Estevez, had adopted the stage name Martin Sheen in the late 1950s, believing his Hispanic surname would limit his opportunities in an industry that wasn't ready for ethnic actors in leading roles. Growing up in Malibu, young Emilio had a front row seat to his father's career, including the making of Apocalypse Now, when Emilio was a teenager. Martin's near-fatal heart attack on the Philippines set in 1977 profoundly impacted the entire family. Emilio has spoken about how that experience taught him the physical and emotional toll that acting could take, and how it made him more cautious about the roles and projects he'd choose. The decision to keep the Estevez name wasn't made lightly. In interviews, Emilio has explained that his father actually encouraged him and his siblings to use their birth name, feeling great regret about having changed his own. He made a choice he felt he had to make, Emilio said, but he didn't want us to feel we had to make that same choice. And keeping the name became a point of pride for the young actor. The relationship between Emilio and his younger brother, Carlos, Charlie Sheen, is fascinating and complex. Both good-looking, both talented, both entering Hollywood in the early 1980s, but their approaches couldn't have been more different. Charlie chose to follow in his father's footsteps by taking the Sheen name and pursuing mainstream stardom aggressively. Emilio went the opposite direction, keeping Estevez and initially gravitating toward more alternative, independent projects. There was genuine rivalry between them, though both have spoken about it with affection in interviews. They competed for roles in their early careers, both auditioned for The Breakfast Club, with Emilio landing the part of Andrew Clark, while Charlie didn't get cast. When they worked together on Young Guns and its sequel, crew members noted the competitive energy between them, each trying to steal scenes from the other. But there was also deep brotherhood. Emilio was protective of Charlie, even as Charlie's career exploded with Platoon and Wall Street. When Charlie began struggling with substance abuse in the 1990s and 2000s, Emilio maintained a careful distance publicly while offering private support. He's been quoted saying he had to learn to love his brother from afar during Charlie's darkest periods, recognizing he couldn't save someone who didn't want to be saved. One lesser-known story, in the mid-1980s, at the height of their Brat Pack fame, Emilio and Charlie made a pact. They agreed that, no matter how successful they became, they'd always make time for family dinners when they were both in Los Angeles, and they'd never let Hollywood ego come between them. According to Martin Sheen, they kept that promise for years, even during difficult periods. Emilio's first major credited role came in this ABC television movie, where he starred alongside his father, Martin Sheen, in a powerful drama about the juvenile justice system. As Danny Caldwell, a teenager whose one night in jail spirals into a month-long nightmare, Estevez delivered a haunting performance that showcased his talent and potential. When Danny rear-ends a police car while drunk driving, his father decides to teach him a lesson by letting him spend the night in jail. But what follows is a descent into the brutal realities of the system. The film earned a Golden Globe nomination, and critics praised Estevez's portrayal of a young man's gradual brutalization. It was a powerful debut and proved that working with his father brought out something special in both actors. As mentioned, Emilio's actual film debut was that uncredited appearance in Badlands in 1973, standing under a lamppost watching his father's character drive by. But his first substantial role came nearly a decade later in Tex in 1982, an adaptation of S.E. Hinton's novel directed by Tim Hunter. As Johnny Collins, best friend to Matt Dillon's title character, Estevez showed natural screen presence and an intensity that belied his 20 years. The film was a modest production with a small budget, but it introduced Estevez to Hollywood as more than just Martin Sheen's son. Critics noted his charisma and predicted bigger things ahead. Francis Ford Coppola's adaptation of S.E. Hinton's beloved novel was a game changer. As Two-Bit Matthews, the wisecracking Mickey Mouse-loving greaser, Estevez was part of an ensemble that would define 1980s Hollywood. C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Tom Cruise, and Diane Lane. The film about class warfare between working-class greasers and wealthy socios in 1960s Tulsa resonated with audiences and launched careers. While Estevez's role was supporting, his presence in this landmark film cemented his place in the emerging Brat Pack movement. The film grossed over $25 million on its $10 million budget, even spawning a successful 2023 Broadway musical. Before the Brat Pack, Estevez was a punk rocker hunting radioactive aliens in Alex Cox's cult classic. As Otto, a disillusioned punk-turned Repairman, Estevez embraced the film's anarchic weirdness completely. The low-budget sci-fi comedy bombed initially, but became a midnight movie phenomenon on VHS. It established Estevez as an actor willing to take risks and choose interesting over safe, a quality that would define his career. John Hughes' masterpiece made Estevez a star. As Andrew Clark, the wrestler crushed by his father's expectations, Estevez brought depth to what could have been just the jock. His confession about taping Larry Lester's buns together, the shame and self-loathing in his eyes, showed an actor capable of real emotional honesty. On a $1 million budget, the film grossed over $50 million and became one of the defining films of the 1980s, cementing Estevez as the heart of the Brat Pack. Released months after The Breakfast Club, Joel Schumacher's ensemble drama reunited Estevez with Brat Pack alumni and added Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, and Andrew McCarthy. As Kirby, a law student obsessed with an older woman, played by Andy McDowell, Estevez delivered his most vulnerable performance of the era, romantic to the point of delusion. Critics dismissed it, but audiences loved it, making it a solid commercial success and the definitive Brat Pack film. At 23, Estevez became the youngest person to write, direct, and star in a major Hollywood studio film. Wisdom told the story of a young man with a criminal record who becomes a modern-day Robin Hood, destroying mortgage records to help struggling farmers. The ambitious crime drama bombed critically and commercially, but it showed Estevez was serious about filmmaking and willing to risk everything on a passion project rather than coast on Brat Pack fame. 1986 was a rough year for Estevez. After the ambitious Wisdom bombed, he starred in Stephen King's directorial debut, Maximum Overdrive, a campy horror about sentient killer machines. The film flopped even harder, earning only $7.4 million against its $9 million budget. Both Estevez and King earned Golden Raspberry nominations. Two commercial failures in 1 year could have derailed his career, but salvation was coming. After back-to-back flops, Estevez desperately needed a hit. Stakeout delivered massively. Paired with Richard Dreyfuss as mismatched Seattle detectives, the buddy cop comedy opened at #1 and stayed there for 5 consecutive weeks, becoming the 8th highest-grossing film of 1987. Critics and audiences loved it, and it proved Estevez could carry a mainstream blockbuster. A 1993 sequel, Another Stakeout, followed, but earned only $20 million. I'll make you famous. With those words, Estevez transformed Billy the Kid into a rock star outlaw for the MTV generation. Director Christopher Kane assembled a stellar young cast including Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, and Charlie Sheen, but Estevez was the center, manic, charismatic, and genuinely dangerous. The Western earned $56 million worldwide and spawned a 1990 sequel that Estevez also produced, grossing $59 million. Estevez's second directorial effort was a black comedy about garbage men who stumble onto a murder and environmental conspiracy. He wrote, directed, and starred alongside Charlie in a true family collaboration. Their sibling chemistry is undeniable, and Keith David nearly steals the show as a shell-shocked Vietnam vet. Critics savaged it, and it flopped at the box office, but Estevez took it on the chin and continued to develop his filmmaking skills. Who knew Estevez's most enduring character would be a lawyer-turned-youth hockey coach? As Gordon Bombay, sentenced to community service coaching a ragtag peewee team, Estevez showed warmth and humour that elevated the familiar underdog formula. The film was a massive hit, spawning 2 sequels, D2 in '94, which made $46 million, and D3 in '96, which made another 23, an NHL franchise, and a Disney animated series. For 90s kids, Coach Bombay was as much a hero as Billy the Kid. Estevez's smart profit participation deal provided decades of residual income. Estevez had fun with this broad parody of Lethal Weapon. Partnered with Samuel L. Jackson and packed with celebrity cameos, including Charlie Sheen, the gleefully stupid comedy opened at #1 and became a solid commercial hit. Critics hated it, obviously, but audiences turned out, proving Estevez could carry broad comedy. By 1996, Estevez had directed 2 features with mixed results. The War at Home marked his return to directing after 6 years, a drama about a Vietnam veteran, played by Martin Sheen, struggling with PTSD. Directing his father in a role that paralleled Martin's Apocalypse Now experience was deeply personal. After years of smaller projects, Estevez returned with his most ambitious film, an ensemble drama set in the Ambassador Hotel on the night RFK was assassinated in 1968. He wrote, directed, and appeared in the film alongside an all-star cast including Anthony Hopkins, Helen Hunt, Demi Moore, Sharon Stone, and Martin Sheen. The film premiered at Venice to a standing ovation and earned SAG Award nominations. The Way might be Estevez's masterpiece. Martin Sheen plays an American doctor who walks the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage after his son dies on the journey. Written and directed by Emilio, the film is a profound meditation on grief, faith, and fatherhood. Sheen's performance is career best work, and the real father-son emotion informs every frame. Shot on location along the actual Camino, the film found its audience slowly through word of mouth, inspiring actual pilgrimages. It's a quiet, deeply personal film about legacy and connection. Estevez's most recent directorial effort tackles homelessness and the privatization of public spaces. He wrote, directed, and starred as a Cincinnati librarian who must choose whether to help homeless people staging a sit-in during a deadly cold snap. Despite strong performances from an ensemble including Alec Baldwin, Christian Slater, and Martin Sheen, the film struggled to find an audience. The financial disappointment didn't diminish Estevez's commitment to socially conscious cinema, but highlighted the challenges of adult dramas in the franchise era. Nearly 30 years later, Estevez returned to Coach Bombay in Disney Plus's series, but this wasn't nostalgia. The show presented a bitter, isolated Bombay who'd lost his way. Estevez brought genuine depth, and when Bombay rediscovers his purpose, it's genuinely moving. The series was well received, but Estevez and Disney couldn't reach agreement for Season 2, reportedly over COVID-19 vaccination requirements. His absence was deeply felt, but the situation was characteristically Estevez, making decisions based on his principles, even when costly professionally. Estevez kept his personal life private. He was engaged to Demi Moore in the mid-80s, married Paula Abdul from 1992 to '94, and has 2 children, Taylor and Paloma, with Carrie Saley. He directed TV episodes of Cold Case and Close to Home, always selective about his work. At 62, his relationship with Charlie remains loving but complicated. With Martin in his mid-80s, they've discussed one final collaboration. Smart investments from Mighty Ducks gave him freedom to choose projects on his own terms, so he lives quietly now in Southern California, content. Estevez never became the megastar Charlie briefly was, but he built something more valuable, a career of substance, his integrity intact. He was the Brat Pack's heart, the most grounded. While others struggled or faded, he built a lasting second act. Keeping the Estevez name, once seen as a limitation, now feels prescient. Success is about longevity, Estevez once said. Working when you want, on what you want, with people you respect. From uncredited boy under a lamppost in Badlands to directing his father in deeply personal films, his career is a study in authenticity. He never changed his name to escape his father's shadow, he stepped into his own light. The kid under the lamppost grew up to light his own way, without pretending to be anyone else. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this content, please comment, like and subscribe. It makes a massive difference to the channel. And as always, I really do look forward to seeing you all in the next one.